This episode of Spectre Sound Studios is brought to you by ProMix Academy.
But what if duct tape is part of my signature sound?
Then your signature sound is dog. Keep it the hell out of my studio! Hey everybody, it's Thursday morning. Hope you're gonna have an amazing day. Thought we'd get you started off with a little Q&A. This is my weekly show, SMT Viewers Comments. I try to answer your comments and questions to the best of my ability about recording, being in bands, all that good stuff. I love hearing from you guys, so if you got a question about recording, mixing, being in a band, leave it below. I will try and get to it, especially if I think it will help out the community at large. Just a reminder, today is the last day for Scott Elliott's drum programming mastery course. I'll have some details on that in a few minutes. Anyway, let's get right to it.
You're not Bob Rock, you're not Rick Rubin, you're Glenn fucking Fricker. When will people get their heads out of their asses and realize that music isn't reserved for well-knowns and you don't become well-known without being nobody first?
Dude, by craw, man, you hit that right on the head. We all start out as nobody. Nobody comes in, right at the top unless you're Kelly Osbourne, and then you get a hit record because your dad's famous. Other than that, for the rest of us, no. Us mere mortals, no, we have to work from the ground up. A lot of people went the traditional route when they built their careers. A lot of guys on the Andy Sneap forum, all have careers now. They all started out as nobodies. I just went in the YouTube direction because that was taking off as my career was taking off, and I found out I was having a lot more fun hosting a show than I was recording bands. Don't get me wrong, I still really enjoy recording bands, especially good bands that don't waste my time. But when you're down here in the trenches with the local bands, most of the time you're teaching people how to play their instruments. And I'm sorry if that comes across as unpleasant and something you don't want to hear, but that's what this job really is. It's not about getting great productions or anything like that. It is teaching people how to play their instruments correctly. Because most of them walk in here and have absolutely no clue about how their instruments are supposed to sound when they're in the studio. Yeah, I'm not sitting on top of a stack of platinum records in a dying industry. I'm making this show for those of us out there who are working in the trenches, in their basements, in their garages, and doing the best they can with what they have.
How many times do you have to tell people, no shit, I don't work with big bands? Most people don't. I'm here to help the people like that before it finally fucking sticks, and people wonder why you yell.
Oh yeah, that comes up all the time. Well, who's he worked with? What's he done? It's like, nothing of any great consequence, and that's 99% of you guys out there as well. Most of us are not going to get to work with the big fucking bands, and there's nothing wrong with that. Hell, I'm proud of the fact I've worked with mostly garage bands over the years. It's taught me a hell of a set of production skills, and I am more than happy to pass along what I know. Watch Mondays and Tuesdays. Those are my tutorial days. Been having a real blast with those over the last few weeks. And if you didn't catch Tuesday's video about things you shouldn't be wasting your money on for your project studio, it's definitely worth taking a look at it because it will save you some money.
Great video. Do you advise on compressing bass when recording or only afterwards when mixing? And just to make sure level is not clipping when recording, cannot find a video on YouTube dealing with this, which led me to find and sub to you.
Hey David, as a matter of fact, I compress most of my critical stuff on the way in, just gently. I've got my distressor back here doing its job, so when I yell, it steps on the signal. Yeah, it's pretty freaking cool. It does a magnificent job, and it's pretty much invisible for what I needed to do. I mean, the thing is just kind of, if you don't know what to do with a distressor, just set everything at 5 and you're good to go. Generally, I use that to grab the vocal peaks on my mic up here, but I'll use it on bass guitar as well. But I might mult that out into an unprocessed signal as well. That way I've got a safety copy. You can always do that as well. But I would definitely recommend compressing the bass on the way in, maybe a 4:1 ratio, just some real gentle settings. You can always hit it harder later, but it will keep your signal from clipping, and that's really what we want to do when we're recording bass. Some recommendations for that, maybe take a look at that Art Pro VLA2, or if you've got a 500 series rack, the Midas 522 compressor is actually an absolute monster on bass, and it's under $200. It's just a steal as far as analog compressors go.
Hey Glenn, maybe it's an out-of-scope question, but if final products that come through your studio are reamped or played with hardware software that the bands don't have to, how can that translate well to going to live shows? Is it a best effort kind of deal at this point? I know your focus is more on studio tone, but I hate the disappointment of listening to an awesome studio album than be completely let down with live show captation.
Oh man, the age-old debate. It's like, oh, we shouldn't do this because we can't pull it off live. Fortunately, the great thing is when you work with low-level garage bands, nobody's going to their live shows anyway, so you're not really stuck in that rut where you have to worry about them being able to pull it off live. It's like, Yeah, why are we worried about your live shows? How many people showed up at your last gig? Oh, the other bands? Your girlfriends? Your parents? Okay, yeah, here's an idea. Let's do the best we can in the studio and not fucking worry about that. Usually that argument's pretty easy to win. I'd rather not be held back in the studio by a live audience that is never going to materialize. If you're working with bigger bands, obviously that becomes more of a dilemma, especially the really big bands who sound amazing in the studio, and then they hit the stage and they're just fucking dog shit. I mean, like, I don't know how many times that's fucking happened. Danzig comes to mind. Yeah, that was one of the most disappointing shows I've ever seen. I was really getting into the first couple Danzig records. I went to go see him live, and we walked out. He was fucking just awful. So yeah, that there is that. And the thing is, I'd never go to another Danzig show. Not if you fucking paid me to. So of course, there's always a balance to play what you can do in the studio versus what you can do live. I mean, some bands can just absolutely crush it live, like Priest. You know, there's one of the few bands out there that's actually better live than they are in the studio. And even at 70, Rob Halford can still pull off Painkiller. Okay, that's pretty amazing. There's no easy answer. All I can say is know your band, know their audience, and work within that perspective. Because if they don't have an audience, don't limit yourself in the studio for something that might never happen.
I went to school for recording, but Glenn has still taught me more than I have ever learned from any classroom.
Well, if you watch Tuesday's videos about 13 things to avoid wasting money on, number 1 was recording school. I'm not saying I had a bad experience in college. I had a great experience in college, but I still learned more about recording by just researching stuff on my own than I ever did in a recording school classroom. I'm going to take a wild guess that that's going to be most people, especially if you're into metal production, because most schools just don't teach metal production. You're better off with an online course. And oh yeah, by the way, today's the last day for Scott Elliott's drum programming mastery course. If you want to learn how to program your metal drums, and I'm guessing that's a lot of you guys out there, don't get me wrong, I still love working with live drummers, but for you guys who are living in apartments and just don't have the ability to record a big live kit, this is going to teach you what you need to know and how to program your drums from a drummer's perspective, because Scott's a drummer. He's going to show you how to program those double bass lines and make them sound more realistic and not like a typewriter. Same with your blast beats, same with your ghost notes. He's got a whole system for what he does. It's really fascinating just looking at it from his perspective.
So you can generate a lot of speed with these type of fills, and they can sound amazing. So here are quads with 2s and 4s. So we go 4, 2, 4, 2. Want to take them off the grid so they're not perfect. You see, we're already creating little flams and stuff that would happen in real life between double kicks and tops. Now, the big difference is that because a person is using one kick drum, the hit before the main kick is actually going to be lower in volume by the way how the technique is on the kick pedal.
It's going for $97 and the sale will end tonight. So grab it while you can. It's only $97 and then tomorrow it goes up to $147, I believe. So check it out while you can. Scott Elliott's Drum Programming Mastery. He's the guy who did Guitar Programming Mastery. Absolutely stellar course as well. That's what got me into hanging out with Scott, because that was a course not to miss either. Anyway, let's hit the butthurt of the week.
If you want to be laughed at by everyone on the face of the earth, do what Glenn says. For someone that's been playing bass for over 30 years and professionally for 20, a lot of what he's saying is in the same zip code as being right.
What a beetle. You are absolutely right on the fucking money, man. Yeah, I must be off my rocker saying things like, show up to the studio on time, come with an instrument that actually works and isn't shorting out, put new strings on your bass, learn the fucking songs. Yes, of course, that's making your life fucking difficult. I understand that. That's absolute mission fucking impossible for a bass player to get through his thick fucking skull to actually learn the fucking songs. Yes, I'm so fucking wrong about what I do. Everybody's laughing at me for saying learn the songs. And you guys wonder why bass players have been the butt of my jokes for the last 7 years on this show. Exhibit fucking A, wanna beetle.
You don't need to keep telling us it's in your opinion. That's why we're here. If anyone doesn't implicitly know that, then they are a fucking idiot.
You mean like wanna beetle?
Glenn! What's your opinion on snare parts with lots of grace notes? I work with a drummer who has grace notes on the snare to absolutely every beat unless we specifically tell him otherwise. This just makes it a real pain to gate and edit and post. Just want to know what your approach is. Thanks.
Well, my first approach is to curse the drummer and the 3 generations of children that follow after him if some woman's dumb enough to fucking breed with him. Seriously, I fucking hate ghost notes. They're a giant pain in the ass. You might want to take a look at the AIX multiband gate. It might do the trick really nicely for you because you can process 3 different bands differently and get the gate to open up on the mid band where the ghosts are going to be and not have to worry about too much hi-hat bleed. Another one to look at would be the slate gate, and that's really fucking amazing as well. They did a fantastic job for that, and it will handle the ghost notes quite nicely as well. The other thing I'm looking at is a new item called the hi-hat husher, and it's a muting device designed to work with your microphone and your hi-hat in the physical realm, and it's supposed to just kind of kill some of that bleed a little bit. And hopefully I'm going to get to go up to Cam Fleury's place either this week or next week at his new studio and check it out and see what it does. I'm very curious about that, and I'll report back to you about how that turns out. Anyway, make sure you subscribe to the show so you get an update on that one, because that might be just the thing everybody's looking for. I fucking hate ghost notes, though. I really do. And I fucking hate the drummers who insist on playing them.
I like how half this lesson is basically drum lessons from a guitarist.
Of course you're referencing my 13 things to avoid while recording drums. That's because basically most drummers are idiots.
Watch this after recording drums for a 70-minute album back in April. Luckily, myself and the engineers at the studio watch your channel. Side note, do you record kit pieces with individual hits after before takes in case you comp and take and realize there's a cymbal tail missing or that's a waste of time because my drummers should be better? Fuck you from Connecticut, where angry nutmeggers and superior drummer is the music scene.
Okay, I have no idea what an angry nutmaker is, and somehow I got a feeling I don't really want to know either. Somebody wants to explain that to me, feel free to leave a comment. Anyway, thanks to your engineers for watching the show. Hopefully they found what I do useful. Of course, you're referencing the 13 things to avoid when recording drums video. Always fun doing those 13 things to avoid lists. They're just a total blast. Anyway, as per your question, I always try and take a sampling of the kit when we're done. You know, I'll do some cymbal crashes, you know, singles and doubles, that kind of thing, and some tom hits and kick and snare, all that stuff, just to have it on library, because if I'm editing something together and I'm comping some takes together and the drummer plays the wrong fucking cymbal or plays the fill differently or something like that, I can usually piece something together that's at least somewhat legit. 99% of the time I don't have to do that. That's just kind of a last ditch effort, save your ass kind of thing, as opposed to first rate, hey, let's fuck with this and just completely replace the drummer. I've always been under the belief that samples should be an absolute last resort, not your first resort.
The live BPM app has been a lifesaver for us to get a good handle on our exact tempos and where they change.
Hey, Andy, thanks so much for the advice. I had no idea this app existed. I'm going to check it out and report back to you guys what I think. For those of you guys who might be struggling putting tempo match together at home, go check it out, the live BPM app. There you go.
Folks put way too much importance in the specs of audio interfaces as though they don't have the highest end stuff. They wouldn't be able to make music. I made a bunch of recordings on a 1010 as well back in the day, and it worked time after time and never let me down except for the one pop cap and the power supply. Easy fix. I always put it this way to people. If you gave Jimi Hendrix a Squire Strat, it would still sound like Hendrix. Give him the highest end Strat, and it would still sound like Hendrix. The gear won't make the artist, just like the gear won't make the engineer or producer.
I don't know if it's that simple. Shitty monitors will definitely hold you back. Better monitors will make your life easier. Adam Neely did this thing, does high-end gear make you better or make your stuff sound better? And he left my answer out of this video. He did this at TGU there a couple years ago and asked everyone. My answer was simple. High-end gear might not change the sound that much, but it will get you where you want to go quicker. And that's definitely the case with high-end monitors, better microphones, that kind of thing. It'll definitely get your results a lot faster. Now, when it comes to interfaces, we're talking about 1% difference, 2% difference, maybe. Not a gigantic difference in sound quality, but when you're trying to get the absolute best sound, yeah, then drop the money on some great converters. Absolutely. But if you're just starting out, please don't think that your converters are holding you back. I always reference this. I did the first 2 Woods of Ypres records on a pair of Delta 1010s, and we did absolutely fine with those.
Have root treatment, but still have a first generation 18i20. Should I upgrade to the 3rd gen or Claret?
Only if you absolutely need to. Is your Focusrite holding you back? Do you find you're struggling for headroom? If so, then you might want to upgrade to a Claret or something like that. Those are really nice pieces of gear. Cool thing is, I'm shooting this Monday morning, and this is going to be Thursday's episode. I'm expecting a package on Wednesday, and that's going to be the Focusrite Red Line 16, and that's because I've got all this extra analog gear here that I need to be able to hook in, and that's got Dante and a whole bunch of other stuff. It's like Focusrite's super high-end stuff. Now, for all you Focusrite fans out there who have been scratching their heads about the RedNet stuff, should I get this? Is it really that much better? Hopefully I'm going to be able to do a couple shows which will be able to answer that. Ultimately, though, if you want to upgrade, sure, you're going to get an improvement. How big of an improvement it will be in your overall sound quality, I can't say for certain. I don't have any scientific measurement tests to go along. I'm going to say there might be a negligible difference, but if you're still using, 48 kilohertz PCM recording, you wouldn't get that big of a difference going to different converters higher up the chain as you would going to, say, like a direct stream digital type system, which will probably have a massive improvement in the sound. I'm in negotiations with a couple companies about possibly doing some DSD stuff. I got to try that out at AES New York there a couple years back, and it was pretty phenomenal stuff. And I'd definitely like to try it out in here to see what kind of results I can get. Definitely going to be worth investigating anyway.
Thanks for this great channel. I have a very basic question. I just bought an API 4 channels free, and I have a Focusrite 18920. Do you think it's good enough for giving good conversion to the API? I'm putting the gain on minimum on the interface, but I'd still like to know if upgrading to a plain converter would improve my overall sound. Thanks.
Actually, the thing that's probably going to improve your sound for those APIs, I've got 4512Cs just over here, is maybe putting some output faders on them. I don't know which version you have. Some of the newer 500 series APIs have faders, so you can load up the transformers a little bit more and give you a bit more color. Mine don't. Mine are for like 2007. You basically got to keep the gain at almost zero. My good friend Anthony Kazoob, who used to be at Ward Beck, he actually found me some PNG faders that I can put after my APIs and turn them down and crank the gain up on those to get them to load up a little bit. And that's apparently where the APIs really start to shine. Once again, better converters probably will give you a better sound, but how noticeable it will be is really up to the end user, and I'm guessing there might be some placebo effect involved as well. Converters are pretty good these days. I mean, like the 18920 isn't half bad, but obviously it's not going to be as good as, say, like an Audient ASP800 or even a Claret or something like that, or once again, the Focusrite Redline stuff, which is going to be really freaking cool. Those things have some pretty amazing specs. So maybe if you're getting APIs, you might want to take a look at getting one of those instead. Ultimately, though, the choice is up to you, but I am curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Glenn, do you know we have a Swedish saying, everybody in Gothenburg is named Glenn? And by the way, do you critique mixes made by fans?
I have heard that. I do want to go to Gothenburg at some point. I'd really like to meet Fredrik Nordström. We've been talking about maybe getting to do a show at Studio Fredman. I would really love to do it. Just a little news flash, by the way. Fredrik did drop his price on his amp sim to somewhere around $120. It's definitely more in line with what the Neural DSP stuff does. It's a really aggressive sounding amp sim. It's really cool. Doesn't sound the greatest on its own. It's designed to be used in a mix. And that's the thing. Great guitar tones might not necessarily sound the greatest by themselves, but they'll sound awesome in a mix. And there are two different ways of looking at this, and I am going to do a follow-up video on that. As per your question about critiquing mixes, yes, I've got a live show that I do every now and then called Merciless Metal Mix Reviews, and you can send me your mix and I will put it on the show and try and critique it the best I can. Sometimes I wind up critiquing the song more than the mix, but hey, that's just how it goes. It's my show. If you don't like it, don't fucking watch it.
To the UK guy worrying about the vaccination. It's safe, it'll protect you and those around you from getting ill, and it's free. What the hell more do you want? Get vaccinated so we can all get on with our lives.
Yeah, here we go. Okay, for everybody who doesn't want to hear this, I'm going into preachy pro-vaccination guy mode. So if you get offended by this sort of stuff, stop watching now. That way it'll save you some butter. Here we are in Ontario. We're starting to lift the restrictions, and most of the population has got their first dose of the vaccine. I'm desperately hoping to get my second dose in time to be able to go to Summer NAMM, and I really want to go to Gear Street if Henning's going to do that. And I miss traveling. That's the best part of this job, and I don't get to do that right now is because of fucking COVID. And it's the people who refuse to get vaccinated are the ones that are winding up in the hospitals these days. The people who got their first shots, there's very slim chance that they're going to wind up in the hospital with this. I've talked to a number of people who work in ICUs, and it's like, yeah, it's all people who are fucking holdouts who won't get fucking vaccinated who are getting really sick. And the thing is, if this keeps happening, we're going to have more and more lockdowns, and we're going to have more variants, and then we'll have more lockdowns. It's like, for fuck's sakes, just get fucking vaccinated, because this problem is bigger than you individually. Think as a whole. Think of the common good, not just me. I know that really goes against a lot of what we've been taught, but we have to think like that. We have to think as a community. I'll get off my soapbox now. Go ahead and rant and rave if you like. That's my opinion. You're completely free to disagree with it, and that's fine, but the science says you're an idiot. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and don't forget, we've got that Scott Elliott Drum Programming Mastery course on sale today, and the sale will last till end of day, so grab it while you can. I'll see you guys next time, and until then, get out there and let's make some great music together.